A heavy anchor by the Bucks kept the Commanders sunk in troubled waters.
I thought, obviously, the goal is to win football games, and we did not get that done.
From the start to the finish, total dominant by the Buccaneers.
We had explosive plays that we had penalties on that really hurt us, and just like
a Baker in Mayfield did a Houdini act on the Commanders all game, and a kicker that might just get kicked right out the door. A reality check for sure, and is back to the drawing board to get ready for the Giants. We'll talk about this and so much more coming up on Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus.
2024, who would have thunk it? Do you guys know what that means right now? Hello, I'm Tony McGee. Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. Yes, 40 years of 40 years and 40 years more of Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. We are here now, and we're talking about this Washington team, but at the same time, we're going to celebrate this whole year because this is something that we were looking to obtain. We have, and we've always tried to give you truthful information. So we brought in one of the best quarterbacks ever. We'll talk to him. Donna Hopkins is back. Gary Clark is over in Europe, and we got Alex on the top. So what we're trying to do now, we're going to take a little break, and we're going to do like Jimmy Smith said a few years ago. Una mas, one more time. We'll be right back.
The man is back, y'all. We're back. Call your mama, call your daddy. We're back, and we're back. We're back. Tony McGee, back, y'all. We're back. Tony McGee. Come on. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee.
As we said when we went out, we said this looks so familiar to what we've been looking at the last 10 years. What we looked at on Sunday was not an aberration. It was a new team that's trying to get better, but did not look as good as they did last year. What we have to take a look at is what's happening with this team. Now, it's taken us 43 years to figure it out, so that don't mean we was in the A class in the game, but we were in the A minus. And let me tell you who I brought in. Donna Hopkins, you've been here with me about 25 years of this. And I tell you what we saw on Sunday, man, that ain't no fun. Talk to me.
Hey, Tony, you're exactly right. This Commanders team, we thought that we were going to see a better product, but I want everybody to put on the brakes because, as the players tell me, it's only one game, Tony. So it's no need to push the panic button. But I thought looking at training camp, going through preseason, that we would see a better product than what we did. I was surprised that the offensive line, one area that I was always concerned about coming into the season, going through training camp, looking at the team out there, because they never did have all 5 starters at one time during training camp and during the preseason. But I was surprised that they played pretty good in protecting Jayden Daniels. I mean, they only gave up 2 sacks, but I think that Jayden Daniels being able to elude the defense of the Bucs helped out a lot. But the offensive line held up still, Tony, better than I thought. But it was the other side of the ball that I won't discuss right now that was a true trip up over their own feet. And then you got a kicker that they let go, this week after the game because Tony, went through 4 kickers. So this team, like I said, they talked about a lot of energy. Dan Quinn talked about that. But in his press conference on Monday, he said that it's correctable problems that they have to, look at the film and so forth. But again, I was kind of disappointed that we didn't see a better effort out of this whole team on Sunday.
Well, I think everybody was disappointed for the simple reason that we digress back. We looked at the moves they made, the bold moves that they made last year, which we find out one was a mistake and one was not a mistake. Then you look at the opportunity they had to get other players at different times. They did not do that. They bought in this team this year, and they're looking at one thing. I guess if this team does not perform early the way they want to, we're looking at a cleanup year. And as you take a look at that, let's talk about a cleanup year. And we've gone and we got Jason to come in because Jace, they wouldn't get who they thought was the best quarterback out there. Now, fans, beware. We're not going to jump on them hard for the simple aspect. It's just one game, like Donna said, but we're going to tell the truth. So if you don't like it, you better put the kids to bed. Okay, you take a look at him. How did he look to you? I mean, he looks okay, but he seems that he could have been in a better environment where more veterans was taking over the game.
Yeah, you watched that game yesterday. You know, Jaden had almost 16. If I look at the stats here correctly, he had 16 attempts for 88 yards, and a lot of those were scrambles. You know, you drop them back and throw the ball, and all of a sudden you see something open up, and you take off and try to pick up yards with your feet. And we know these are a lot of things he did in college, but also the things I saw him do well when he was at LSU was stand in the pocket, go through his first, second, and get to his third progression when it was there. So I'm not sure if it's just because it's the first game and you're on the road and, you know, you're facing a playoff team from a year ago and you know, comfortability is just not there. Chemistry is not there yet. Didn't get a chance to play a whole lot in the preseason for a rookie. You know, sometimes that's when you try to play a little bit more reps just to get some of that timing down. But he didn't play a whole lot in the preseason. So these first couple of games for him and his offense is all about building continuity and getting chemistry. And we didn't rush the ball a lot at all. You know, we didn't try to establish the run game. Anytime you have a rookie quarterback, you know, at any point in time, you always try to take a lot of pressure off of him by rushing the football, keeping defenses at bay, and then utilize him in a little bit of play action pass and RPO game, which he's done very well coming out of college. But when you don't have a rush attack to, you know, by utilizing Robinson more to make those linebackers come up and hit those second level throws, Terry McLaurin only had 2 catches for 17 yards. You know, you're talking about your number one target. You know, there's no way he shouldn't have been targeted 7 or 8 times, and everything doesn't have to be down the field for him. But you got to find a way to get the ball in his hands and get him moving. And for me, defensively, I just felt like it made Baker Mayfield look like he was Michael Vick. You know, you got to wrap up on the guy. Yeah, you got to wrap up on the guy, and then, you know, throwing for 4 touchdowns and, you know, having a high completion percentage. That means he didn't have a lot of tested throws. What I mean by that is the guys running wide open.
Hey, Jason, before Tony goes on, I want to ask you about the first play on offense.
Wait a minute, you act like I'm going to go on like
you don't know about offense. I got to go to the quarterback.
Hey, Hops, if you don't want to tell the truth out here, we can get some new personnel in there now.
You got to save that argument for the defense because I'm going to be on that side soon on you. But Jason, the first play, you know, offensively, Jaden Daniels has had this problem in training camp. The pass to the side where he missed Brian Robinson, a backwards play, they call that. That's something that he's had problem with all preseason and even in training camp is that particular one because it was a couple other times that he was thrown behind because it looks like he's not comfortable with throwing, you know, sideways yet. And what did you see there?
Yeah, anytime you throw that ball behind you, that's a lateral, you know, and those are dangerous. You always want to make sure that the running back is at least a foot in front of you when you're throwing that ball to him where it's going forward. So if it is an incomplete pass, it's not a fumble. But anytime that ball, that means he's getting to that progression a little bit faster than he probably should have. And that could be happy feet. Just because it's his first start and he's like, you know, let me get to my progression. But if immediately
I saw it in training camp too.
Yeah. So that's something they're gonna have to work on. Maybe they need to start looking at how far he is from the center at the snap. Is he 4.5 yards? If he's 5 yards from the center when he's in shotgun, and if he's 4.5, then where's the running back at? If the running back his heels is at 5, then if that running back's gonna run a swing route, then they need to teach him to get more downhill. Or Jaden's gonna have to extend his drop a little more. I know at LSU they had him doing a lot of tight drops. What I mean, where he wasn't really getting back to 7.5, 8 yards deep on a lot of his drops. So everything was so quick. You know, you do the RPO game, is things happen quickly, and it's not like you're taking those drops to let things develop downfield. So for me, I feel like they're going to have to extend his drops in the pocket, where it's not those, you know, baby steps as we call them, where he has to really, you know, extend his drop and make sure that he's beyond when he's back there, that the running back is not behind him when he's throwing those swing routes to the right or to the left.
Can you do something for me, Jason? Did you get all that? You explained that very well, but can you explain to them what game Donna was watching when she said the offensive line played pretty well?
Let me tell you, Tony.
I know I've been having eye problems lately. I've been having eye problems, and I didn't see that.
This year, it was greatly approved. They would have gotten sacked. Jaden Daniels would have got sacked at least 5 or 6 times. But the offensive line, Tony, if you've been looking at them closely, I've been had to like educate you this year, Tony, a little bit. We was in the first game of the season. Come on, Tony. But Tony, before you go to Alex, let's go to the locker room to hear what the players had to say about that game yesterday on the offensive side.
Whole new team. Like, what was it, like 53% of the team is so new, you know? Like, we're just trying to, like, get that going. And props to the Buccaneers. I mean, they're a really good football team. You know, went deep in playoffs and are just overall, you know, been together for a while and are a really good football team. So, you know, like I said, we hurt ourselves in certain scenarios, and, you know, we're going to learn from that. Again, we're still a new and young football team. So we just keep on believing in us.
You know, it's tough. We just didn't quite execute the way that we wanted to, but I'm not discouraged. I have a lot of faith in him over there, and I know I'm going to get more opportunities, so I just got to stay focused and be ready. But those are the type of plays that change games, so going down the stretch as this season, we want to try to connect as much as possible.
What'd you think of Jaden tonight?
Yeah, I think he showed great poise. You know, he used his legs early when he had to. He gave us chance on the outside. We just didn't quite connect like we wanted to. And, you know, at the end, I just feel like he played really hard. He played strong. He's not afraid to put his head down and get the extra yards. Like, he's not afraid of this, you know what I mean? And I just think it's his first action in live bullets flying, and he's going to get better. That's the thing about him. Like, he puts a lot of time and work in, and as myself, I'm going to get with him and look at the things that we could do better and how I can help. But I'm proud of the way that he showed up. He did a good job of taking care of the football. We just, as an offense, we just weren't as sharp.
But I think going against a Todd Bowles defense in your first start is probably the hardest matchup you can have in this league. Obviously, I played against Todd multiple times in my career, and what he does is some of the toughest things you'll see as a veteran player. And for him to be able to execute as he did, obviously we didn't finish in the red zone with touchdowns like we needed to, which came back to bite us in the end. But I know this whole team is excited to play with Jaden, and I think he's going to be really good for a really long time. We got to be better as a football team. It's not on one guy. All three phases got to be better. And we have the guys in the room to do it. I'm sure a lot of people are down on us after this game. You know, the scoreboard was not flattering to us at this time, and you kind of are what your record says in this league. But I don't think anyone's panicking by any means. It's game one. We're not going. The only thing this means is we're not going undefeated. The Miami Dolphins are safe from us. But other than that, I mean, we just got to keep getting better. It's a long season, and we got to work on the practice field on Wednesday and go from there, evaluate the tape tomorrow, and get better from it. And guys got to be honest with themselves.
Some of y'all should be out there today talking about Wednesday. You need to get on out there. Hey, Alex, I'm going to let you finish that story. You tell me, because, see, I've lost a little bit. Us older guys, we don't see well, and I didn't see an offensive line dominating Jack out there the other day. So you tell me if I saw the wrong game.
Donna, I got to tell you, I'm a little bit with Tony on this. I mean, Jaden Daniels made a lot of stuff out of nothing, which is great. A lesser quarterback in terms of mobility would have been sacked 6 or 8 times. But he was elusive, but he had to be because there was pressure coming from seemingly everywhere. I think overall his first game, pretty darn good. I mean, listen, the first play, not a great way to start with that'll go down as a fumble in the stats sheet. Again, he showed why folks are so high on him. He made some plays that a handful of folks in this league can make. I think about Lamar Jackson. Think about some other folks that can literally make something out of nothing. And instead of a 7-yard lost sack, it's a 12-yard, 23-yard scamper. That said, I don't think you can live that way 17 weeks in this league. I would hope he's going to get better at sliding. It's remarkable to me, a la RG3, these guys who are the most elite of athletes. When it comes to that, for whatever reason, it doesn't look right. And every time he goes to kind of tumble, and there's going to be more because that's his game, is to be out in the open field and to make dudes miss. It's electric. It's also dangerous. And even if it's not injury, I don't know, Tony, Jason, Donna, whether he can do 17 times a year what he did at Tampa, i.e. the rush attempts, most not by design, i.e. the hits, the somewhat tumble/sliding thing. But overall, you saw why he is so darn dangerous and why he was the 2nd overall pick. And some folks think would have been the top pick no matter who the pick was. I think he was good.
Right.
It's one game. Listen, Had he been amazing, like RG3 at New Orleans a bunch of years ago, that doesn't mean we're in for 15 years of amazing. Had he been horrific, that doesn't mean we're in, oh, no, he's not the guy. This is one game. You said
if they'd have played me on my first game, they would have cut me. I'd have never got in the league. I'm telling you. So I'm not getting down on him, and I'm not getting down on the whole team. But they had such a great plan, cooked such a great plan, cake and everything. But like they said in MacArthur's Park, somebody left the cake out in the rain, and I don't know if I can take it. We'll be back in a moment. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm equal opportunity. I fired the first one that can't play. So that means that we had an empty bus coming back the other day. But with that being said, defense didn't show off. But I saw a couple of players that looked pretty good to me, Allen. But if we go back to it, and Donna, you might as well say it, if you look at what they were missing most in that game was the edge rushers, the pressure, the being there. Okay, they had some people that could do the ancillary stuff, but they needed that superstar rusher. They needed that boy that's up there in Chicago right now that they gave him a new contract just because he got off the train. So I'm going to tell you what, we got to take a look at this and see, did we get rid of the right people?
Well, Tony, I'm putting you on the train because you are illusional. If you think John Allen played good on Sunday, then you must have not been watching the same game, because that front of that defense, Tony, was missing in outer space because it was no pressure. And that's the reason why that secondary that needed help, that was an area that needed help this year, is the secondary. So they needed to have pressure up front from those two middle guys. And you talked about pass rusher. One guy, to me, that really played better than anybody that has put his hand in the dirt for the first time is Jamin Davis. That's the only one that looked like, to me, did anything, Tony. But Allen and Payne, they were not heard of in that defense. And the secondary on those crossing plays, again, got beat. And I talked to St. Jude's, and he talked about the communication part of that, Tony. But before I let the other people chime in, let's just go to the locker room to hear what they got to say, because I know Jason is waiting to eat you alive talking about Allen was doing something.
I hurt ourselves on critical downs, like, the third down and longs and whatnot. They just won out on that side of the ball. So, just don't beat ourselves on plays and penalties that we know we get them to. We want them in that position, and, we give it up.
Just talk about this first game, talk a little bit about defense and just what happened out there.
Definitely not the outcome we expected. On defense, I just felt we got to get off the field and let's get some pressure on the quarterback and, just play as a team.
Talk about the crossing plays. It seems like it was some mix-up there. What did you see out there?
Really we just got to execute better, honestly. Some uncharacteristic things of us in the secondary, but I feel like we just got to play together. So we're gonna come in and look at
first game out. Just talk a little bit about the defense and how you saw things.
I can count at least 3 plays where we kind of beat ourselves just based off communication, which is bad for today because it stings. We lost, but it's also optimistic for next week because those things can be fixed super easily. I think the great communication we had throughout the whole training camp preseason, it kind of got a little bit lost during the game. We got so focused on trying to make plays and all that stuff that we forget to talk about certain things that led to some guys being wide open, some big plays happening, because it wasn't much that they just went out there and beat us. Personally, for me, I wish I could at least stop one of the 2 plays against Mike Evans, but that's just me having to work on the small details, going against these top receivers, because you got to just be on point on everything, because otherwise they're going to make the catch. Great ball, great throw. Just got to find a way to get that ball out so we can take away at least 7 off the board, and then the rest of that stuff we can fix it by just communicating with each other. So,
hey, Tony, one thing I wanted to point out, too, is on third downs when they couldn't get the team off the field, Baker Mayfield, them off the field, is that he scooped under that front of the line and everything. When they had him contain some, he just spun around and whatever. They could not stop him. And like Jason said, they made him look like an all-star quarterback just because they couldn't wrap the arm around him. Poor tackling, penalties, and so forth. So I can't understand how you could say that Allen, Payne, or any of that defensive front really played that well.
Because you just mentioned what the quarterback did wrong, not what the defense did wrong. So
the defense didn't do anything right either.
We must have been doing something pretty good. Hey, guys, you know what? I'm going to just tell you what.
They get
one thing we got to get with, we don't want to turn into negativity all the time and talk about them as if this is the end of the season.
Hey, Tony, don't you want to tell the truth? Don't you want to tell the truth?
We got to tell the truth on this. And what we saw on Sunday was not what we want to see next week. Now, that was only the first game. You did see some things that was worth looking at. You did see some young players was hustling. You never did see the defensive back or some of the linebackers even put their uniforms on, seemed like. I don't know why you bring Wagner in here and don't give him some time. I know he could have helped them a little bit. But at the same time, this team is learning themselves. And what's more important is they got to grow while they learn. They can't shrink. And that's what's been happening in past years. And guys, you got to tell me, it looked like as if our offense and defense, this game looks so similar, Donna, to all the games we've been in.
Hey, Jason, you can handle that because Tony is delusional still.
Well, when you talk about, he's talking about anytime defensively, you know, you ask any of those guys if they play well, they're automatically going to say no. You know, if you ask, Dan Quinn, if he thought his defense played up to par, he's going to say no, because defense always holds a standard. And defenses usually early in the season are faster along than offenses because it takes offenses a little bit of time to get going and get the flow. But defenses, you're able to just, play fast because there's not a lot of thinking. You're just reacting to what you see in front of you. And yesterday, those guys, where Tampa beat them at was 9 for 13 on third downs. You got to get off the field. You don't get off the field in the National Football League, you're going to lose games. And that just, and like I said, when Baker was scrambling up in the pocket, he likes to move up in the pocket. Baker's a strong quarterback that can spin out of things. So you got to think about, instead of trying to knock him out and to hit him, is wrap up. He's the guy that's got to wrap him up and hold on to him and make sure he's down. But like I said, it's one game. You make your biggest improvement from game 1 to game 2. And I think these guys are, as pros, anytime you lose, you're never going to say you played good. Especially, giving up 9 for 13 and 33 minutes of time of possession, and to Washington's 22 minutes of time of possession, because I think Washington was 2 for 8 on third downs. And, anytime you're 9 for 13, you're going to win that game.
Now, you didn't have to bring up that time. You just trying to make Donna look good. You didn't have to bring that up. You ain't quarterbacking right now. You on a television show. So
how many sacks did they have? Just tell me that.
I have no idea.
Yeah, that's right. They don't either.
Hey, Alex, talk to me, man. I don't know what's happening with these two offensive minded people. But what do you see on this team needs to be improved most in the next 5 to 6 days?
My first inkling watching Sunday's game, and this is where I defer to you and Jason, because you guys have played this game, is, oh my goodness, the DBs are awful. But then I think big picture, and maybe that's a function, as Donna alludes to, of pass rush or scheme or whatever. But watching that game, let's not forget, I think Mayfield overthrew one would-be touchdown. Then he had a wide out on the right side, drop, I think, what would have been a touchdown. This dude could have thrown for 5 or 6 touchdowns. Jason said, Michael Vick, as I'm watching the game, I thought to myself, they're making this dude look like Randall Cunningham. I'm dating myself there for those of us that remember back that far. Listen, this one game, everybody knows, first of all, winning on the road is hard. Okay, winning on the road, I don't care who is playing who. When it's at the other team's place in the NFL, that's hard. If they pull that game out and it wasn't that close at the end, that's an upset. So they weren't supposed to win this game. It's the first game with the new coach. They got a bunch of new players. They got new schemes. They got new assistants. So I think we give them somewhat of a pass. But obviously, Tony, if you watch that game, the pass defense, whether it is specific to the defenders, the DBs, or whether it's more global, i.e. rush and guys in the middle and scheme, that has got to get fixed. Because Baker Mayfield's really good. He's probably right in the middle. There's 32 of these dudes in the world. Jason was one of them back in the day. He's not the best. He's not the worst. He's an average NFL quarterback. And that's great. But this dude looked elite against the Washington team. Now they're lucky-ish. They got the Giants coming to town. That quarterback ain't much. But against this team, he's been good. Okay. Against this team, a bunch of dudes have been good. So if I had one thing, it would be you've got to defend the pass better because you can't be letting dudes wide open. You know, you just can't make me feel look like
I got one question because I don't know much about the game, but you said you have to defend the pass thrower. Well, who does that?
That would be the defensive backs typically, Tony. I don't know.
Back to what Alex said, we're going to give this team a pass because it's the first game. I'm not giving nobody passes.
Well, not a whole pass, but
the whole training camp, preseason. Hey, nobody gets no pass because they should have played better than what they did. Even if they didn't win the game, it should have been a better product on the field than what we saw.
Well, the key was communication.
Maybe the other team is better right now than they maybe the other team have improved. If you look around the league right now, it's a lot of improvement. A lot of young quarterbacks. Look at the running backs. You see a gang of new running backs. We know they're not going to last 4 or 5 years, but that's all right. You see new people. You see that in basketball even. So maybe we should get off of this team and not be as hard. Maybe they have to have time to improve. But when you get rid of as many number one draft choices, if they have in the last 5 or 6 years, you should have a better team than what you're putting on the field right now.
Hey, Tony, would the Golden State Warriors say what you just said? No, they about winning championships all the time. Jason, you got it.
I would say this. You
I
look
forget
at
the Warriors. The Warriors won the championship this year.
Hey, but in the past, Tony, when was the last time the Commanders did? They won it enough, Tony.
I say this though, you start looking at the team after the first 4 games. You know, the first quarter of the season, the first 4 games is enough film at that standpoint to see how much you improve from game 1 to game 4. You'll know a whole lot. When you think about this defense yesterday, when you have a breakdown, you leave Mike Evans wide open, that's a communication issue, because you always red dot certain guys on the opposing team. And Mike Evans is one of those red dot guys because he's a guy you always have to know where he's at any point in time on the field. And to leave him open sometimes, just means there had to be a mess up in communication. And then number 2 is anytime a quarterback moves around in the pocket as much as Baker did yesterday and not get sacked, it's hard for defensive backs to stay with these guys that long. So where they're thinking he's sacked, but then they're trying to play man-to-man and they're trying to run with this guy, and all of a sudden the quarterback comes loose and you got to come up either and tackle him or you got to leave your guy. And they was losing guys in the defense in the back end on the scramble drill. So they just got to work on the scramble drill. You're going to see a lot of that in the National Football League, especially with a lot of these quarterbacks now that are being more dual threat and looking to throw when they're scrambling, not just run, how to stay with your guy. So those are all things you can improve on, you can clean up. But yesterday, I think they underestimated Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay offense. Let's be honest.
And that may be the truth. And, we're going to get off script a little bit here, Alex. I know we only got a little time, but, man, quarterback, what you doing so sharp today? You looking for a new job or something? What you want to talk to us about it? We got room on the set. Hey. We let Gary go out this week. I'll see you after the show, okay? We can talk.
Yeah.
But I do know, hey, next week now, Alex, I know I'm throwing our business on the street, but it's just like you're at church. You got to get everything in. Don't get too holy for me. But next week, we're going to start with our picks of the week. We bringing some people in. We're going to pick teams. Is that true?
I think so. I'm all for it. I think I won last year, didn't I, Donna? Didn't I win the
Oh, wait, no, I didn't do that for that. I don't know about that now.
I forget what the prize was. I haven't gotten it yet. I'm waiting for it.
Wait a minute, how can you think you won and you don't know for sure? Hey, fans, we'll talk about that when we come back. Don't think we let special teams go because they weren't special either. We'll be back in the moment.
Why the kicker not here?
We always say, if you like old preachers, we don't never forget the sermon. And you got to have offense, defense, and special teams. And Donna Hopkins has been mad for 5 years because they cut a relative. You know, you don't have to get over it.
Well, let me tell you what, Tony.
They are going to have to bring some people in here because the way the league is now.
Hey, Jason, all I know is if they would have kept my brother Dustin Hopkins, who was with the Chargers and was successful, and now he's with Cleveland, hasn't been getting cut. Unlike the Commanders, can't get a kicker in here. Tony, this is the 4th kicker that they had this year, and they got rid of him right after the game on Sunday. And they're looking, because this is one thing that Dan Quinn said, is that sometimes people would just keep the guy and see if it works out, but they're trying to win. So whoever is not working, they're out of here. And so they're bringing in another person. And to see if that guy works out. If he doesn't work out, he'll be gone, because special teams is so key. 2 field goals, 47, that's money in the bank. You should get those.
Exactly.
56 to me, and he came close to missing an extra point. So, I mean, they couldn't keep him in here, and they didn't have to give up a draft pick. They got him from Cleveland, 7th round draft pick, if he would have worked out after so many games, but they didn't have to do that because he didn't work out after 1 game. So they're looking to replace him, but the special teams, they've got to get that right, Tony, because that's so key moving forward.
But that's didn't it look like a lot of kickers get moved this year?
Say that again?
Alex, didn't a lot of kickers get moved this year? It seemed like a lot of kickers moved, a lot of new people in.
A couple, Tony. I think I frankly am always sort of amazed by the Justin Tuckers of the world and the fellow in Kansas City who are so darn good, and it's not a mystery that those teams that are the best teams in the league, they happen to have the best kickers. It's so easy to kind of dismiss it. Oh, it's just the kicker. But Donna's right. I mean, those two, you got to have those two. Had this game been closer, that would have been the difference. In a way, it sort of made it more palatable for Commanders fans that they lost by a couple scores, and in the end, it didn't really matter that he missed 2 kicks. But it mattered when it happened. You know, it changes the whole feel of the game. I also didn't quite understand. I hate to get off on a tangent, but the team scores to get down. I forget. Instead of going for 2 to make it a 1-possession game late in the game, they kicked the extra point with the kicker who'd already missed 2. He could have missed that one. Would you rather be down? Does it matter whether you're down 10 or if you're down 9 when you can be down 8? I know that's a different topic, but I think that special teams kicking game / decisions on kicking, that stuff is so massive. And you know who gets it right? The Kansas City Chiefs get it right. The Baltimore Ravens get it right. Somehow this team can't find a kicker, and oftentimes whoever the coach is, you're left wondering, what are they doing? What are they doing?
Yeah, well, Detroit went and got one out of USFL.
Yeah.
That's who got it right.
They get it right.
Get a soccer keeper. Dan Quinn talked about on Monday the reason why they asked him about why did he go for 2 points at that moment. But he said in the 3rd quarter, they still had opportunities as far as hoping to get the ball back 3 times. But he said he was second guessing himself because he almost did that, but he was looking at opportunities to possibly get the ball back 3 times. It didn't work out. So it's almost like you flip a coin. If it works out, if it doesn't, then you go like that. But at that point, he probably, you know, I mean, the offense was struggling. The defense was struggling. Special teams was struggling. And now, Tony, they got the Giants that are struggling too. Daniel Jones, who they probably should have let go this past year. They've got so many hiccups there. If they probably was the worst team on Sunday, in the NFL that played. That's just my view of looking at them. They look like they're in shambles all over the place.
What you talking about hiccups? They're some choking dogs.
That's what I'm saying. The Giants.
The Giants and the Panthers.
Giants and the Panthers.
Right.
Let's start talking about it, though. If you look around the league and you look at this coming in and you look at this different team, we've seen this one game and we see some similar things we do not like. But at the same time, we've seen some things on other games. I mean, okay, Philadelphia won on Sunday, but did they impress you? No, they did not impress me. You look at Kansas City. They're going to get theirs when the time comes right. But at the same time, you start looking at – now, I feel like somebody ought to go up and take a judge up there in Cleveland and arrest that quarterback because he ain't doing nothing but stealing money. That's all he's doing. That's all he's doing. They shouldn't let him get out of the locker room. And you talking about bringing kickers in and out?
It's all guaranteed.
Is that crazy?
What? Worked out.
Yeah.
But my thing is they're calling it, and they also, they're
if
calling
I had
the
my
offense
kickers
like,
and they came in and they didn't shoot, I'd have an apple and a roadmap for them there every day because they're not coming back there the next day. You're gonna have to. That's what they got to start doing with this team. You got to start playing with them, and around the league, you can look at different teams doing that. Everybody better watch Detroit. Now I am from Battle Creek, Michigan, the Mecca.
Yeah, we know how you calling them out.
Everybody watch Detroit. Somebody give me a thought on Detroit real quick.
But Tony, really,
Detroit.
I want Jason to talk about not only Detroit, but the quarterback play across the league on Sunday because it was not that strong in most of the areas. Dak and all this, he gets his big contract just before the Cowboy plays. They signed him to his multi-contract, the biggest in the NFL. But I want Jason to talk a little about just quarterback play across the league on Sunday.
Yeah, it's just some of your highest paid guys, right? Just look like the average quarterbacks. You know, you think about Deshaun up in Cleveland now for what? It's been 3 years in his deal, and you don't ever talk about anyone's money. But if you're gonna pay a guy that much money, then why are you calling plays as if he was a rookie quarterback? Throwing 2-yard out routes and 3-yard stick routes. Like, if this is supposed to be your guy, then call the game and let him go out and play. Because right now he's not looking like the Deshaun that we saw in Houston. When you think about Atlanta yesterday, you can still question because Kirk is an older quarterback and he wasn't a real mobile quarterback before he got injured, but then he has an Achilles tear. And then all of a sudden you give him a huge contract, but then in your mind you're drafting Michael Penix. So I didn't understand the relationship there or why they did that. Because to me it seemed like he played yesterday. He's not gonna come out and say he's looking over his shoulder, but he played as if he had pressure on him he has to perform at a certain level. Because that last interception that he threw to end the game, that just doesn't look like something you see Kirk Cousins do lately since he's been in Minnesota. And to me, it looked like he's playing with the pressure of knowing, they drafted Michael Penix at 8. And then you talk about, Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is, like you give this guy a contract, you had all these question marks when you gave him the contract. And then you give him that type of contract, but then you wouldn't give Saquon Barkley the contract. And then Saquon goes to Philly and has 3 touchdowns in his first game as an Eagle. You don't think that gets back to making that locker room talk about we let Saquon go to keep Daniel Jones? So there are sometimes moves that you can make as a general manager that can hurt your football team if you're not careful, because it can mess up the flow of chemistry. Or guys will be like, are we really trying to win? Because if you don't reward the guys that should be rewarded, but you reward the guys that really hadn't proven they should get that contract, it can hurt your football team.
Hey, Jason, that was a dumb move up in New York to let go Barkley. I mean, to me, what were they thinking about that? That's just poor management all the way across the board to let him go.
Yeah, you let him go, and you see, and then you let him go. And my thing is, he still costs a whole lot less than what you was paying Daniel Jones. So you could have brought in a quarterback like a Baker Mayfield to the Giants and kept Saquon Barkley and got it done. Look at the guy that played for Minnesota yesterday, Sam Darnold.
Yeah, Sam
Darnold got with the right offensive-minded coach and the right system with the right players around him, and you just utilize his arm talent, but you put him in a position to succeed. That's why I tell a lot of people, when you play quarterback in the National Football League, sometimes it's about having to get into the right marriage. Sometimes you can get into the wrong marriage and not the right fit. And Sam Darnold probably going to look like an all-pro this year, playing with Justin Jefferson and playing with that Minnesota team that knows how to win games. But I'm just saying, if you the Giants, you could have let Sam Darnold look better than Daniel Jones. He's not even making anywhere close to Daniel Jones' contract yesterday. So my thing is, I think the Giants didn't want to feel bad that they missed on the high draft pick that they took in the top 10. And they didn't want to say, hey, we made a mistake here at this position. So let's just try to see if we can give him more time. You know, they did that with Eli Manning, but Eli was well ahead of where Daniel Jones is, you know, at this point in time. And he had a great defense as well. But Eli was way, way ahead. And they tried to feel like they tried to do that all over again with Daniel Jones. You just set your franchise back because that locker room, your quarterback cannot be the highest paid guy and look the worst guy on the team.
Well, you heard it here first. The quarterback who was our best guy then, he's the best one on this team right here. I don't know what the other guys are doing. Alex went ghost on me.
I will add about the Giants. There's no such thing as a must-win game week 2. Okay, it can't be. It physically is impossible to have a must-win game in week 2. But I'm going to call this a have-to-win game. They got the Giants, and by the way, their uniforms Sunday were like, I don't know what that was. But they've got the worst team in football with maybe the worst quarterback in football coming to their place, the Commanders. Home opener, new quarterback, new coach, new energy. If the Commanders don't win this game, I think this will take them down a really lame path. You've got to win this game. Because, you got to win this game.
You know what happened, though, Alex?
While it's not a must-win, it is that you better darn win the game.
You got to change your statement then. You can't say the worst team in football then. If they don't win this game,
exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
We'll be back in a moment. We're going to talk around the league.
It's not the Eagles. It's not the Cowboys.
I'll tell you what.
It's that
San Francisco and Philly, they're not looking too good either. I know they winning and stuff, but you got to look at the whole chemistry of the team. But when we come back, if Donna Hopkins make a mistake in this interview,
I don't make no mistakes. I tell the truth.
We're going to see can we get her out of here. We'll be back in a moment.
Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus Speakers Bureau offers you various opportunities to connect with former and current players along with Tony and the crew. For more information, go to redmagplus.com Speakers Bureau.
I must say once again, please do not take us all serious today. We are really telling you what we feel, but at the same time, it's not the way we want it to be. Now, if you look around the league, there's nobody out there just burning the league up. And Donna, if you take a look at it, Philadelphia, that's how they won 10 in a row and then lost, 6 out of 7 or something like that. That's the way it goes. If you look at these young teams right now, any one game they may show well in. But at the same time, you're starting to see the wear and tear on the young ones, but merely on the old players. So it may be a change in the league this year, who we're looking at. And I know all of y'all think Kansas City will fall this year. And Kelsey and the young lady will be right there with him. I know y'all don't want to believe it.
Yeah, Tony. Tony said,
you haven't heard the new thing about what's happening on the team and who wants to this. I'm not going to bring it on television, but sometimes y'all got a minute. Let me pull your ear.
Tony said that he ain't gonna mention her name, but he said don't take us too serious. I'm kind of like mad because he kicked Jason Campbell off because Jason didn't agree with him about the defense. So you see Jason is no longer on here. It's because he's gone because Tony send him packing just like the Bucks.
You go packing. Wait a minute, you gonna try to convince the people? You just like the people running for president. You gonna make stuff run that people can't. You don't see it.
But Tony. Hey Tony, but you said that you talked about as far as going around the league and what's going on in Kansas City. You look at the NFC East. We'll start right there with the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, they open up against Kansas City, and everybody is still saying that they're not seeing the same Philadelphia team in past years, and they've got all the pieces still, but something is missing. But look, they gave Kansas City came out and that was Baltimore. Kansas City with Baltimore came out and just basically ran over the Ravens defense. But talk a little bit about up the road, the Baltimore Ravens, because look, they got Derrick Henry in the backfield, and they don't even really give him the ball that game. And I think that Lamar Jackson, again, is almost like Jaden Daniels. He's running too much and does not have to run that much. I was tripping over myself talking about Philadelphia Eagles because I was thinking about the NFC East. But Kansas City and Baltimore in that first game, if Derrick Henry, you got him on that team, Tony, to run the ball, and they barely gave him the ball.
And you know, we do a lot of things. We joke a lot, but also let's talk a little facts. Whenever you see those big running backs, and I'm sure you guys have been following, you know as well as I do, when you see them big running backs and they've had a great game or a great year, 2,000 or 3,000, they never have it after that. And that's what I think is happening to Derrick Henry. I looked at him the other day. The explosiveness is not there. When he used to just run over people, it's not there right now. Maybe it'll come. But those are kind of guys. You can look at Clinton Portis here. When Clinton was here, he came in, his first play was a long touchdown. But then he had that one big year where he had all those 2,000, 3,000 total yards or whatever it was. It just seemed like it was never the same. So what I had to say with Derrick Henry, yes, you got him there. And right now, his threat is bigger than his performance. But if you take a look at that team right there, they are the most dangerous team in the league. Yes, they got beat by Kansas City, but Kansas City did that on the onus that they are the Super Bowl champ. That team right there in Baltimore, if they're not, they'll be in the game if they don't win it.
Come on, Tony. Alex, help me out, because they had an opportunity down the stretch, Tony, Baltimore did, to win that game. Lamar Jackson overthrows a wide open receiver. He was so open that I could have threw him the ball and got it to him. Twice, Tony, they had the opportunity, and Lamar said, oh, he didn't step out. That foot was out of bounds, Tony. And Derrick Henry, Tony, he ain't lost nothing because they don't give him the ball to see if he's lost anything. Come on, Alex, help me out a little bit.
I don't know if I really want to be the mediator between Donna and Tony, but I will say a couple things. Lamar Jackson, just so electric still. He's no kid anymore. He's not 23 anymore either. But this guy, again, sort of like Jaden Daniels in game one, when all else fails, this guy makes plays that probably only 2 or 3 people on the planet can make. He kept them in that game. I know it appeared to us that he just sort of missed that wide open receiver. I thought I heard something post-game about he was actually trying to throw to somebody else, but it sort of looked like it was that guy. But either way, if they connect, that's a touchdown. I want to say big picture. That's the first game of the season. We've been waiting for this for 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is. The National Football League, it is like the best drug from somebody that doesn't do drugs out there. You know what I mean? Like the first game comes down to a toe. It's Lamar. It's Mahomes. It's everything you want, and then some. Every other sport is great. Baseball has its moments. Hockey's got its moments. The NBA has its moments. But the National Football League never fails to deliver. And here's the first game of the year, those 2 quarterbacks, and it comes down to the last second and about 1/4 of an inch of a dude's toe being on the line. You can't script it. We've all watched it. Tony, you've played it. And yet we're still, I think, moved by it, which I think is just remarkable. It was a hell of a game. Baltimore will be just fine. Derrick Henry, I think, will be fine. I'm with Tony. I don't think he's the guy he was 3 years ago, because I think if he was that guy, then Tennessee's not letting him go. Remember when the Eagles let Donovan McNabb go to the Washington then Redskins? And everybody's like, oh, my God. You know who knew Donovan McNabb wasn't that Donovan McNabb? The Eagles knew.
Exactly.
So everybody knows about Derrick Henry's tendencies. I'm not saying he can't play. It's probably Tennessee. Does that mean he can't be great in Baltimore? No. But he's probably not the same guy he was 5 years ago, because none of us are who we were 5 years ago.
I don't know about that, Alex.
Tony, I don't know. I think Kansas City three-peats. I think they win the whole thing again.
Man. Oh, Alex, we got to get that's a vote on television.
Let's put a hamburger.
Write it down, Tony.
I want
Write
a
it down,
deluxe.
September 9th.
I want a deluxe hamburger with malt on the side and onion rings.
That's fine.
Okay,
I got
Tony,
you.
Alex talked about a game coming down, an exciting game to open up the NFL. Let's talk about another game, and you mentioned this team earlier on, is the Detroit Lions going up against the Rams. That game came down to overtime where Detroit pulled it out. Talk to me about why you think the Detroit Lions is the team to watch out for, because they haven't missed a beat. They came out explosive in that game against the Rams. I thought they were going to blow them out. They end up winning 26-20. What makes you think that this Lions team can do what they did last year when they almost, was in, championship games and then moving on?
Because they got the same coach, and he's the key. I'm going to tell you, when you get a coach like him, and I've had a lot of coaches, and I mean very good coaches, including Coach Gibbs, and, I just go down the line, and I look at the whole deal, and that coach is so important. So if you take a look at them, these are the best coaches in the league. These are the best players in the league. It all comes down to what happened and that's why they have that one game any given Sunday. So, you may have the best coach, you may have the best players, you may have the best front office, you just think about it, whenever you hear about these games, there's always something that caused the problem. So when you look at these teams now and we look at how they're playing, we look at Kansas City, you can talk that three-peat stuff. Ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen, okay? And you look at Philadelphia, that boy that played his cards out right now too. We may see one of these young people, one of them right here, or one that's up in Pittsburgh, or somebody be the leaders of these teams.
Pittsburgh ain't going to be up there. Come on, Tony, be for real. But I want to.
They could be up there.
I want to
go. The coach.
They're going to be out there because they need too much help. But 3 games I want y'all to watch this week. Buffalo at Miami is going to be one of those tough games. Buffalo looked like they weren't going to pull out their game on Sunday. Then you've got, as far as the Bears at the Texans, that's going to be another big game. And then you got Tampa Bay at the Lions. So Buffalo at the Dolphins. Tony, who you like? Alex, who do you like? As far as the Bears at the Texans,
I got the Dolphins at Buff. I got Dolphins. And what was the other 2 games?
I said as far as the Bears at the Texans.
Texans win.
And then the Buccaneers at the Lions.
Lions.
And Alex, who you like between those 2?
I'm with Tony, who I think took all the home team. I think Buffalo will win in Miami, but the other 2 games, I like the home team. Certainly Detroit. Tampa was good. Going to that place is a whole different animal for that team.
And then you got the Rams, who got beat by the Lions. They're going up to play the Cardinals. The Cardinals came back and pulled it out. But I think that the whole NFL, until like 3 weeks in, because you didn't have you had 3 preseason games. They didn't play anybody. It's going to take at least 4 games in before you really see teams step forward.
All right, we're going to have to get on out of here, guys. You got good analogy. We'll be back with this next week. But one thing you fans got to know, we bringing in the restaurants next week. They're going to have their own challenge. And we're going to create a challenge for you, where if you want to call the games, we're going to make it happen. So you got to watch us every week this week, because we're going to be the one. But for all my gang and everybody that was here, we talk about each other, but you can't talk about us. We'll be back next week. And we never say goodbye. We say, in the minute.
In the Minute with Tony and Donna. You can catch them weekly on their podcast, and you can also subscribe to their YouTube channel, In the Minute.
One more thing, and that's what they say. We got one more thing we want you to just realize. We realize that this is our 40th year, and whatever we can do, we want you to enjoy this show. We want you to enjoy this year because we're going to work hard to make this the best year ever. Not because it's the 40th year, because that's the way we work. And we want you to, and we want you more involved. If you have a question for some of our guests, even when you're talking to a Joe Green in Pittsburgh, or you're talking to James Brown at CBS, we'll get your question and give it out. So you'll be big on television. So what we want you to do is make sure you keep watching us, because because we're going to keep watching you. And always remember, 40 years, 40 eyes, we own you. We'll see you next week.